Welcome everyone. We will talk about the evolutions of human resource management in today's video. Now, the idea is very simple. We'll understand the various phases and complete understanding of human resources will take automatically. So let us understand the phases one by one at a time. So first came the industrial revolution, which was marked with productions in a large quantities. Then probably we came into the growth of trade unionism. Now, what does growth of trade unionism took place is when there was a mass production of uh, items. Let's say primarily it was textile, but then it can be metals, it can be coal. That means a lot of labor was utilized, and when labor was utilized, there was this protection of their rights was supposed to be ensured as cumulative workforce, and this cumulations of workforce of a labor under one banner was the formation of the trade unionism as they came to known as. Then probably came the phases of scientific management. It was all about productivity, it was all about improving efficacy or efficiency as the case might be. So starting from mass production to unionization, then probably to the efficacy of a production or productivity, if we may say so. Then probably we shifted slowly and steadily to the human relation era of industrial psychology, and that is where we try to understand what an acumen of a person is made up of, and what actually triggers that person to improve on his productivity or previous performances. So this was the industrial psychology that comes around it. Remember, industrial psychology was again applicable to a group of people, to a more than a handful of number of people, if I may say so. But when it came to human relation movement, it was again personified into an individualistic movement. Therein, we came into the behavioral science approach, as in what are the causes and effect relationship. We try to find it out. So, and we try to improvise this upon the effect by changing the causes behind it, and thereby laid the foundation of the growth of personal management. So yes, industrial revolution is a large scale production, the rise of the factory system, if I may say so, employment of a large number of workers in factories, introduction of divisions of labor who was going to supposed to do a certain segment of the work, certain part of the work, growth of new class of technical and professional employees as they were formerly known as. Then came the topic of migration of labor from one area to another, primarily from rural areas to the urban areas, primarily from areas which were agrarian in society, agricultural based, to commercial society, which is urbanizations altogether. The rise of materialism as a result took place, and the monotony and the boredom of the jobs started to creep in because your life was almost a Xerox copy of the previous day. You wake up, you go to your factory, you do a certain activities, you come back, you lay down, again you wake up and repeat it, same by same. So it was the monotony and the boredom did creep in. Then came the fragment or the rise of the growth of trade unionism. With the rise of the factory system, people started to face problem. When I say people, it's the workers of lower wages, of poor working condition, and to ensure that they were be able to solve their problem, they had to get in numbers in there for their strength, and that is where they organize themselves into trade unions to secure better wages and better working conditions. Next is all about the unions to strengthen the collective support could force an employer to listen to the workers and redress the grievances. Now, this is a classic period when the society was divided into black and white, or should I say haves and have not. So employers had everything at their disposal, and the workers probably had the very basic amenities altogether. Now, this is where this needs to be ironed out. The differences had to be ironed out altogether. The method used strikes, slowdown, walkouts, boycotts, and sabotage as a bargaining power for the workers. Whatever they again strikes or slowdowns. What is the difference of strikes and slowdown? Strikes means absolute abruption in the work. They stop doing the work, whereas slowdown will be they will be deliberately slowing out their productivity and probably performing on a slower pace of work. So walkout, boycotts, and sabotage. The union help in adoption of the grievances handling system, acceptance of arbitration as a means of resolving conflict about rights and disciplinary practice, expansion of the employee benefit and program, liberalizations of holidays, as the case might be, replacement of the rule of thumb method, scientific selection and training of workers. Now, this is where we're talking about the scientific management. Remember, the rule of thumb method was what a person was supposed to do, and he used to go through the motion, or she has to go through the motion altogether. But scientific selection is stressed upon training. Scientific selection stressed upon the right way of doing the work. So there was a cooperation between labor and management. Ultimate output was the main focus. So there was an equal divisions of responsibilities, Taylor's technique of personal management, scientific selection and training, differential pieces of wage plan, as the case might be. We are talking about the personal administration movement, employer discovery, worker satisfaction, let's say greater work productivity. Imagine what we are looking at it. Taylor developed the concept of work design, work measurement, and production control, which transformed industry. The National Cash Registers Company is believed to be the first personal management department, as the case might be. Now we talk about industrial psychology. Industrial psychology was all about matching people to their job based on their acumen. For different job requiring different skills and abilities, it emphasized the use of psychology in the field of personal testing, interviewing, attitude measurements, learning theories, training, monotony, study, safety, job analysis. What are we looking at it? We are trying to have the best fit between a person and the job so that there is this element of satisfaction creeping in, job satisfaction. There is this element of temperament matching the requirement of the job. A number of companies added personal department for the first time. Personal consulting firms began to appear. Many colleges, many universities began offering training in a particular area. A particular personal research studies were initiated. Then came the advent of the human relation movement. This is where the famous Hawthorne experiment were conducted in the field of industrial psychology. In between those 5 years or 6 years, as the case might be, if we may say so, what actually happened? We are talking about 1927 and 1932. The conclusions of the experiment were the amount of work to be done by the workers is determined by his physical capacity, but by the social norms, as the case might be. If I may say so, the amount of work to be done by workers is determined by his aptitude, by his social outlook and outbound. Non-economic rewards and sanction play immense roles in influencing the behavior of the workers. Workers were absolutely treated as an individual, but also as a member of a group. So they were something called not being distinguished. Informal leaders played an important part in the setting of enforcing and a group norms, as the case might be. We are talking about the human relation movement, and this is where Elton Mayo, the gentleman in the picture, you have to do more than hire and fire boss. As a result, is all about human relation. It was not about hiring people, it was not about firing people. In fact, that if the duration of the employees in an organization is short, the productivity is not optimum. In fact, it is detrimental not only to the individual but also to the organization in the long run, and that is what human relationship behavior actually strive to improve the chances of them matching with the jobs and probably having a longer stay in an organization. Behavioral sign approach was the next thing which came around it, which brings us newly developed theories, methods, techniques of relevant social sciences such as psychology, sociology, social psychology, and anthropology to the study of human behavior, as in why we behave in a particular fashion, what are the asks and what are the tasks that we are comfortable or uncomfortable with, what are the causes for every of the reactions that a person displays. The study of management must be centered around the people and their interpersonal relation. The advocates of the behavior science approach concentrates on the motivation, concentrates on the individual drives, about the interpersonal relationships, the leadership, the group dynamics, as a person says so. We, as I say, always of management style evolve. It is about production that improves, which is absolutely not appreciated if people were micromanaged. On the other hand, probably if you give a little bit of a leeway, if you get a little bit of responsibility to the employees, and if you are friendly with them altogether, you will see people applying more about themselves into their jobs. So the growth of personal management was the eventualities that actually came into vogue around here. This is what we were talking around in the several techniques and the styles of managing human resources were developed in mid 20th century. Should be precisely said in 1950s to 1980s. A result of research and experiment, people were now called human resources. You remember, people was removed with the word called human, which we are already. Now an additional word called resources, as in they bring in certain facts, certain figures, certain talents, certain opportunities with them to the organization. So they have to be treated as a resources and as a valuable assets to the organization. Focus is now shifted towards two-way communication, management by objectives, employee-centered leadership and quality circles is what we are all looking at. Technology has entered into the HRM domain along with HR professional. We are looking to be focusing less on the admin work and more on the strategic issues of the government, of the organization, of the company, of the corporate body in which one person is employed into. The installation of HRIS in a big organization revolutionized the management of human resources. Remember, it is all about liberalization. It is all about globalization that that the HR professional witnessed a widespread change in their roles. The new roles of HR functions are all about being HRBP, as in human resource business partner, as in a strategic partner. We're looking into it. We are talking about HR as an employee advocate, talking some for something on behalf of an employee as what is the right way to do around it. We are talking as an HR as a motivator for change on the behalf of the organization, on behalf of the employer, on behalf of the dynamic environment. So they are the champion of changes that an organization envisions in times to come. So basically, the approaches to HR has changed from commodity approach to a machine approach to a patternistic approach, eventually evolving as a social science approach, human resource approach, and the human resource development approach. So from a person, an employee being treated as a commodity, now we are looking as an HRD, as an employee development approach altogether. So from commodity to machine, from machine to paternalistic. Paternalistic is where you are treating them as your whims and fancies, and probably you might be a good leader or dictatorial leaders the other way around. Then came the social system approach where it was hands in hands between the employee and the employer before HR approaches came across it. With this, I come to an end of this particular presentation. Thank you for watching this video.